Okay, so have you ever like woken up in the middle of the night and suddenly,
Like, what time are we talking?
oh, like 2:47 a.m.
Okay, yeah, I've been there.
and you just can't get back to sleep because you were like surrounded by plastic? Like it's everywhere.
You're telling me.
Well, if that feeling's ever hit you, then this deep dive is definitely for you.
I'm intrigued. What's this deep dive all about?
So we're going to dive into this really interesting piece that tackles our relationship with plastic.
Okay.
But not just like as the big scary environmental problem that we always hear about.
Right, right.
It's got this like kind of surprising twist of humor,
Oh, interesting.
and it even throws in some creative inspiration.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So what really grabbed my attention was how this piece starts off.
Yeah.
It uses that feeling we just talked about,
Uh-huh.
being totally overwhelmed by plastic.
Hmm.
It uses that as a jumping off point for like a really thought-provoking discussion.
So it's not just another, like, doom and gloom lecture.
Well, definitely not.
Okay.
It's more like this like refreshingly honest and even engaging look at our like love-hate relationship with this stuff.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah, right. So it's really unique in his approach.
I'm taking that up.
So get this. The text describes our relationship with plastic as a toxic love affair.
Oh, wow.
So I got to ask, does that metaphor resonate with you? I mean, does it really capture that like push and pull we all feel with plastic, the convenience, but then the consequences?
It's a spot-on analogy, and you know what? It's surprisingly relatable.
Really? How so?
Okay, think about it. Plastic, it's kind of like that, that charming but kind of problematic X.
Well, I know that type.
It gives you instant gratification, right? It's convenient, and it even like gives you a sense of security.
I can see.
It's woven into everything we do, from the minute we wake up till we hit the hay.
It's true. It really is everywhere.
But just like with any toxic relationship, there are those long-term consequences that we often just kind of sweep under the rug.
Yeah, we're so focused on that immediate comfort that we don't want to see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
And the text goes even deeper.
Yeah.
It actually argues that plastic is a symbol of both the problem, the solution.
Whoa, wait, hold on. How does that even work?
It sounds like a paradox, I know.
Yeah.
But the author makes a really compelling case by focusing on plastic's durability.
Oh, interesting.
So instead of just like complaining about how plastic just sits in landfills forever,
Yeah, I hate that.
the author flips the script and says, hey, this is actually proof of how ingenious humans are.
Okay. I kind of see where they're going with this.
Right. We've created something that's like practically indestructible.
It's true.
And that speaks volumes about our potential, but also the huge responsibility that comes with it.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
So we have this amazing power to create, but also to destroy.
Yeah.
And all our choices around plastic,
Yeah.
how we make it, use it, and get rid of it,
Yeah.
really show us that duality.
I never thought of it that way.
It's like this powerful reminder that we're not just passive consumers.
Yeah.
They're actually actively shaping the future of this material.
Oh, that's a heavy thought, but it's true.
And you know what? The text even offers some pretty cool insights, specifically for creatives like slam poets.
Oh, that's right up my alley.
Yeah, about how they could use their craft
Yeah.
to communicate effectively about this complicated plastic issue.
Okay, I'm listening.
And the first piece of advice they give is to use humor.
Humor to talk about plastic.
Yep. You remember that hilarious analogy about plastic being like that annoying ex who just keeps popping up uninvited?
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Right? It's like so clever. It makes the whole plastic problem relatable
Yeah.
and less scary.
Yeah, instead of being bombarded with guilt and fear, you actually laugh a little.
Exactly. And that laughter can be like a gateway to a conversation that might have felt too heavy otherwise.
It's disarming, right?
Yeah.
You're more open to hearing what they have to say.
Totally. And what's really cool is that the text emphasizes that humor isn't about like making light of the issue or anything.
Right?
It's about creating a connection.
I get it.
It's finding that sweet spot where we can like laugh at ourselves,
Yeah.
acknowledge the craziness of the situation, and still be motivated to change things.
That's the key, isn't it? Motivating people to act.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And humor can be so powerful, especially when we're dealing with complex or emotional topics.
No doubt about it.
It breaks down those walls,
Yeah.
creates a sense of like, we're all in this together, and ultimately makes the message stick.
Makes sense. Think
Yeah.
about it. We're way more likely to remember and actually act on something that made us smile.
Than something that just made us feel bad.
Exactly. Guilty or overwhelmed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So humor is definitely key.
Agreed.
What was the second piece of advice for those of us who want to make a difference through storytelling?
Well, the author really stresses the importance of offering a vision. you know?
Like a positive alternative.
Exactly. Instead of just harping on the problem,
Yeah.
show people a path forward.
Yeah.
A glimpse of a world where our relationship with plastic is, more harmonious, more sustainable.
And they do that so beautifully with this image of flirting with nature.
Flirting with nature.
Instead of clinging to plastic.
Okay, that's a good one.
It's playful, but it's powerful.
Yeah.
And it suggests this like more mindful and intentional way of relating to our environment.
It's like they're painting a picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that imagery is so important.
Yeah, wow.
Because it gives people something tangible to grab onto. A sense of hope and possibility.
Instead of just feeling doomed.
Right. It's not about shaming people for using plastic.
Right. Oh.
It's about offering a more appealing alternative.
Yeah.
A vision of a future where we've moved past that toxic love affair.
And found a better way.
And found a more balanced and sustainable way of being.
That's the goal, right?
Totally.
Right.
And it reminds us that we have choices every single day.
We do.
We don't have to be stuck in this cycle of just buy, use it once and toss it.
It's so easy to get caught up in that, though.
I know, but there are other ways to live, to create, to consume.
Yeah.
And those choices, even if they seem small, they can add up to something huge.
I agree.
It's like a collective effort.
Absolutely. And if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture,
Okay.
it's about shifting our mindset, you
Right.
know, from fear and scarcity to abundance and possibility.
Ooh, I like that.
It's realizing that we have the smarts, the creativity, and the resources to create a better future for ourselves and for the planet.
It's not too late.
Not at all.
I love that positive spin.
Me too.
And speaking of resources, the text actually mentions this tool called Poetry Master.
Poetry Master. What's that?
It's specifically designed for people who want to tell stories about their relationship with plastic through slam poetry.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Right. It's a fascinating addition to this whole discussion because it actually gives people a concrete action step.
Yeah.
For those who want to get creative and use their voices to advocate for change.
I like that.
While we won't go into the details of the program itself,
Yep.
it just highlights this awesome potential of slam poetry as a powerful way to raise awareness and inspire action.
Makes sense.
And it speaks to this bigger idea that everyone has a story to tell,
You do.
a unique perspective to share.
Okay.
And all those stories, when they're woven together, they can create this like tapestry of change,
That's powerful.
way more impactful than any single voice could be on its own.
I love that image. A tapestry of change.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
We have the toxic love affair metaphor.
Right.
That duality of plastic being both the problem and the solution. The power of humor and vision.
Yeah.
And the importance of storytelling as a catalyst for change.
Phew. It's a lot to unpack. But there's one question that the author ends with,
What's that?
and it's been kind of nagging at me this whole time.
Okay. I'm curious.
Can we really break up with plastic? I mean, is it even possible in our world today where plastic is just so ingrained in everything we do?
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
And one that doesn't have an easy answer.
I know, right? It feels almost impossible.
Well, I think the author offers a really nuanced perspective.
Okay, how so?
They suggest that maybe a complete and immediate breakup.
Like cold turkey?
Yeah, like that's not realistic.
Yeah.
You know? Or even necessary.
So you're saying there's a middle ground?
There might be the center. Plastic is so intertwined with our lives.
Yeah.
And it does have its valuable uses.
Yeah.
Especially in fields like medicine and technology.
You're absolutely right. I mean, plastic has revolutionized healthcare
It has.
and made so many incredible advancements possible.
I can't argue with that.
So maybe it's not about demonizing plastic altogether.
But about finding a better way to live with it.
Exactly. Maybe it's more about changing that toxic love affair into a more balanced and sustainable partnership.
A conscious coupling.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
So we're not breaking up. We're just redefining the relationship.
And that redefining starts with awareness.
Awareness of what?
Of our dependence on plastic.
Okay.
Both the good and the bad.
Uh-huh.
By recognizing that dependence, we can start making smarter choices about how we produce plastic.
And how we use it and dispose of it.
Exactly. It's about taking back control and being active participants in shaping the future of this material.
Instead of just being swept along by the tide.
Exactly.
I love that. It's about moving from feeling helpless to feeling empowered.
We all have more power than we think.
So what does all of this mean for you, dear listener?
That's the question, isn't it?
What story will you choose to write about your relationship with plastic?
You know what? Building on that idea of individual action,
Yeah.
it's also really important to think about the stories we tell ourselves
Okay.
and the narratives that shape our perceptions of plastic.
You're right.
Remember how the author emphasized that even plastic has a story?
Oh, yeah. That was a real mind shift for me.
Right.
We tend to think of plastic as just this, inert, disposable thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it actually represents this whole web of
Uh-huh.
choices and innovations and consequences.
Exactly. And how we frame that story, the narrative we choose to embrace. It has a huge impact on our actions and our ability to even imagine a more sustainable future.
Like we're all characters in this ongoing plastic saga,
I like that.
and we actually have the power to rewrite the script.
We do.
But the question is, what kind of story do we want to tell?
Right.
A tale of convenience and disposability, or one of innovation and circularity, and a more harmonious relationship with nature?
That's a powerful analogy. And it reminds us that we have agency.
We have the power to choose.
Right. The ability to choose the narrative we want to embody.
So do we want to keep seeing plastic as the villain?
The bad guy.
Yeah, the symbol of environmental destruction?
Or can we see it as a valuable resource?
Okay.
A material with the potential to be used responsibly and sustainably.
It almost feels like the text is suggesting that it's not about completely rejecting plastic,
Right. Yeah.
but about finding a more balanced and nuanced approach.
Like finding that middle ground.
Remember that image of flirting with nature instead of clinging to plastic?
Oh, yeah. Good one.
It suggests a gentler, more playful relationship with our environment, one that acknowledges the benefits of plastic,
Okay.
but also recognizes the need for responsible use and disposal.
I like that image. It speaks to the possibility of coexistence.
We can live with plastic,
Yeah. Maybe a complete breakup isn't realistic,
or even desirable,
especially considering how important it is in some industries.
like medicine and technology.
Exactly.
It's true. Plastic has revolutionized healthcare.
It has.
It's made so many amazing things possible.
I can't deny that.
So maybe it's not about demonizing plastic entirely,
Right.
but about harnessing its potential for good,
And minimizing its negative impacts.
finding that balance
Exactly. The challenge is finding that sweet spot.
between innovation and responsibility.
Right. How can we design for circularity?
Okay.
Making sure that plastic is reused and recycled instead of ending up in landfills or polluting our oceans.
That's the goal.
How can we create new materials that are both durable and biodegradable?
Minimizing our impact on the planet.
Exactly. Those are the big questions.
And those questions actually lead me to something else that really stood out to me in the text.
What's that?
The emphasis on personal responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to blame corporations or government.
Right. That's always someone else's fault.
But ultimately, change has to start with each of us.
With our own choices.
Remember that line? The problem isn't plastic, it's us.
Whoa. That's a bold statement.
It kind of threw me off at first.
Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it's true.
It makes you stop and think.
We're all part of the system that keeps plastic consumption going.
Every time we buy a single-use plastic bottle,
Or a product wrapped in layers of plastic packaging.
we're contributing to the problem.
Even if it feels like a small contribution.
It all adds up.
But here's the good news.
What's that?
We also have the power to be part of the solution.
By changing our habits
Right. Supporting businesses that prioritize sustainability.
and advocating for better policies.
We can actually shift the tide.
It's about understanding that our choices, even the small ones, when they're multiplied across a community, can have a huge ripple effect.
It's like a chain reaction.
Exactly.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening.
It has.
It's given me a fresh perspective on something that could feel really overwhelming.
And guilt-inducing.
I love how the text uses humor and storytelling and creative imagery to engage with the issue.
It makes it more digestible.
Yeah, it's informative, but it's also inspiring.
It's a good balance.
It reminds us that even when we're facing these big, scary challenges
We can still find hope.
and creativity and a path forward,
And it all starts with that first step.
making that first conscious choice.
Right.
So as we wrap up this part of our exploration,
Good.
I want to leave you with this question. What story will you choose to write about your relationship with plastic?
It's a story that's still being written.
And we all have a role to play. You know, it's interesting how this whole conversation about plastic keeps coming back to storytelling.
It's true. It's like this reminder that stories shape our world, even when we're talking about something as ordinary as plastic.
Right. We've been talking about this toxic love affair
Yeah.
and the possibility of rewriting that narrative.
But how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
How do we move past just acknowledging the problem and actually start crafting a new story?
Sure.
One that's more hopeful, more sustainable, and more aligned with what we believe in.
The text seems to suggest that creativity is the key ingredient in this whole transformation process.
Oh, absolutely. Remember what the author said about using humor
Yeah.
to engage with this issue?
Uh-huh.
That's a perfect example of how creativity can break down barriers.
And open our minds to new possibilities.
Right.
That analogy about plastic being like that annoying ex who keeps popping up in your yard.
Oh, I loved that one.
It was so clever.
It was.
It made me laugh.
Oh.
But it also made me think about how plastic is just everywhere.
It's so true.
It's a perfect example of how humor can be both disarming and thought-provoking.
Yeah. You can approach a serious topic with a sense of lightness
And playfulness.
that makes it more accessible and engaging.
And it's not just about humor, is it?
No, definitely not. The text also talks about the importance of offering a vision,
Okay.
a real alternative to our current lifestyle.
Which is so dependent on plastic.
Exactly. Remember that image of flirting with nature?
Instead of clinging to plastic.
It's such a beautiful image.
It really is.
It's like an invitation to reimagine our relationship with the environment
To move beyond just using it and taking from it.
and to embrace a more harmonious way of being.
It's a call to tap into our creativity.
To imagine a world where plastic isn't seen as trash,
But as a valuable resource.
something to be used responsibly and sustainably.
And that vision, that sense of possibility,
Yeah.
that's what inspires change.
It's not enough to just point out the problems.
We need to offer a better way.
A glimpse of a future worth fighting for.
So it seems like this deep dive has taken us on a journey
From awareness to action,
from recognizing the challenges.
to embracing the potential for change.
And remember that resource the text mentioned.
Poetry Master.
It's specifically designed for people who want to use slam poetry to tell their stories about plastic.
It's a great tool for anyone who wants to turn their creativity into activism.
Slam poetry is so powerful.
It's raw and emotional and rhythmic.
It's a really effective way to raise awareness and get people to act.
It reminds us that everyone has a story to tell,
And that sometimes all it takes is a little creativity
a willingness to try something new.
and a platform to share our voices.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
we want you to think about your own relationship with plastic.
What story do you want to tell?
What small changes can you make to move that story in a more positive direction?
Remember, even the smallest actions can make a difference.
Use a reusable bag. Refill your water bottle. Support businesses that care about sustainability.
Every choice matters.
And if you're feeling inspired to share your story with the world,
Check out Poetry Master.
it might be just what you need to craft a powerful message.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into our complicated relationship with plastic
We hope this exploration has sparked your curiosity and your creativity.
and empowered you to make a difference.
Remember, the future of plastic is still being written.
And we all have a role to play in shaping that story.
Let's choose to write a story filled with hope and innovation and respect for our planet.